What is going on, everyone? Is it Monday? It's Monday. Are we rocking? Are we rolling?
Yeah, we're rolling.
It's cool because my screen just went completely dark. And we're back. I can see it. We're rocking and rolling. Hey, hope you guys had a great weekend. Welcome back to baseball season because the first weekend of games happened. And that also means that baseball is back and there will be baseball games until the World Series comes to an end. It's just going to be 6-7 straight months of baseball, which is exciting. But there's a lot to talk about from this weekend. Obviously, baseball is back. I want to give some of my impressions on what happened, at least in Baltimore, and what I got to see and what I specifically watched and covered this past weekend, because I had a different vantage point that I've had, I guess, so far in my life. I got to accomplish something I've never done before, and that was being the color guy for a big league game. So that was cool. I'll talk about that. Also, if you're just a fan of the Olympics, if you're a fan of gold medals, or if you're a fan of hockey, all of the above, well, shirts and pants, the USA-Canada game was electric. Want to kind of talk about that. And there's one moment in that whole situation that I want to touch on because it's what makes sports and teams so special. Let's see. Football is close to free agency, Zach. We're right around the corner. And the draft combine week is about to commence. So to explain all of that, but also explain what the Ravens' limitations may or may not be, we have CBS salary cap expert and former agent Joel Corry is going to join us at 3:40 to talk about what the Ravens need to do to possibly retain one of their big ticket items that could be hitting the free agency market here in a couple weeks, and what a restructure of Lamar's contract could look like to make it all happen. So all that and a whole lot more, because that's just how we roll. So if you're new, hit that like and subscribe button. Zach, you and I are in studio. It's just us. How you doing?
Doing good. Yeah, what an eventful weekend. It really was, just from top to bottom. Talk about, obviously, spring training, games beginning. I mean, if you're in Baltimore, a lot of polar bear sightings already, which you're pretty excited about. They talk about the Olympics coming to an end. Mike Tirico, hell of a job ending them. Incredible monologue to end it. You got the U.S. men and women's taking home gold in hockey. Some saying our sport. What a fun time. It was a fun weekend. Also had some fantastic college basketball on, which we don't really get into on here, but fantastic college basketball on. It was a good, I don't want to call it a send-off, but it was a good, fun, jam-packed sports weekend before, as you say. It kind of feels like, obviously, we're at a weird time with the NBA, with the NHL, kind of getting back up this week. But it was like the pinnacle of awesome sports moments. And then you're like, what do you mean we have to wait a month for these MLB games to count? We're starting to get there's still that fresh newness of the spring training games where I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And then in a few weeks, I'm going to be like, can we play the games that count yet? Can we play the games that count yet? But fun time, fun weekend.
Yeah, and especially, though, when you're watching this and some people get off the hot starts and you go, this dude's going to be the best player of all time. Hey, Jorge Mateo had a granny against the Orioles today, right?
Yeah.
Jorge Mateo's going to hit 40 jacks now this year for the Atlanta Braves.
Whoop, whoop.
That's what spring training tells us. Or Pete Alonso will homer in every game for the rest of his career, which – honestly, the way he's been hitting it, I wouldn't disregard it, but it is a good reminder. This is spring training. You're trying to get right. It doesn't necessarily matter what the stats are in spring training. It's going to matter what they do from March 26th until the end of the season. But of course, who doesn't want to get off to a good start? It's a good feeling, and it builds confidence, especially for guys. We'll get into all that in a second. I guess, I'll just rip the Band-Aid off. I called games this weekend, Zach, so that was pretty cool.
Woo!
That was pretty cool. And I appreciate all the support wholeheartedly. You guys know that. It was very surreal. I know it was just a couple spring training games, And there's more on the docket that I can tell you. And when that's fully out there, I will speak more on it. But that is the plan. And, really grateful for it. And, the team there at Masson made me sound way better than I could ever dream of. And when you got guys like Kevin Brown and Ben Wagner there to help tee you up, it makes it easy, And then on top of it, you get to talk to one of your former teammates and good friends, Dean Kramer. That was a pretty cool special moment to be interviewing. I wanted to rip him to shreds during the interview on Saturday. I wanted to ask him, so, hey, Dean, velo down a little bit, thoughts? But you know what? I'm like, I'm going to feel this out here. So I'll just call him a good kid and I'll make fun of him not turning to double play, which was atrocious, Dean. But he just wanted to get more pitches in. That's how it works.
Looking off the runner to third. Spring training for everyone, Dean. We're going to give you the pass now. We'll give Dean the pass now. But that was a good moment. That was a fun one to listen to. Neither of you guys could keep it together when you first said hi, but that was I think that's what made it fun.
Yeah, it's for those that don't know, right? I play with a lot of these guys, got personal relationships, and it's about having fun. And I hope to give more insight on this broadcast to not only those guys, but insights of the game that I've come to know and love. And sometimes I never hate the game, but does it piss me off from time to time, Zach? Yes, because baseball is hard. It's frustrating, but it's what makes it so special. It's the people around you that you get to associate yourself with. And one thing I'm excited about is continuing to explain what I see, what I know behind the scenes, and how I can bring that together to the audience that's listening. And obviously, if you guys listen to us here, you already know we do a big part of that already. We try to keep it real. We try to keep it fun. And so it's just kind of an extension, so to speak. So appreciate it. There is more coming, especially this spring. So stay tuned when I can talk about that a little bit more. But speaking of team and that it's the people, it's what you remember when it's all said and done. Well, I'll tell you what, yes, people are what make it special. And then those moments with those people are what is remembered in the history books. And if you watch the USA play hockey yesterday for the gold, that is the perfect definition of a team bigger than the game, but also a moment that was 46 years in the making and was one of the most iconic scenes in American sports history. It's going into American sports history. It was iconic. It was a very thrilling game. Also, hell of a game in general. If you're a fan of sports, it was a hell of a game.
That's why that's the whole point. Is it was the total encompassment of why you love sports, because it was one, both teams, it wasn't just about winning. It was representing your country. It was about everything that goes into that. I mean, for Team USA, the women just took care of business a few days prior. They've got gold on. And so now you're like, okay, we got to get gold. Like this is not only for gold medals. This is to sweep Canada in their sport. So that's a big deal. It's been 46 years to the day when it happened, since the last time the U.S. men's won gold. And you could just feel like there was no other way it should have went down, going to overtime, everything. That was just fantastic. Playoff hockey, now that was a playoff hockey on a whole different level, is just insane. It genuinely, I don't think the entire overtime period, people can talk about, if you're a hockey purist, the whole, 3v3 versus 5v5 and how it shouldn't have been decided. That I understand. I get it. But that, my heart rate had to be resting at 110 that entire overtime, because it's just over at a second. It's over at a second. Canada's got three of the best goal scorers in the world on the ice at the same time. Connor McDavid comes up short again. People talking that's a big storyline that's kind of getting talked about. that's just it was the total encompassment of like sports. And then like you talk about right after bring Johnny Hockey, Johnny Gaudreau, getting his jersey, bringing his kids onto the ice, like, because obviously that was somebody who would have been there. Like that is something, he was the best American hockey player. That's why they called him Johnny Hockey. So for his family to be there, for them to bring them on the ice, like you could tell it meant more than just, oh. And I think that was the coolest thing, because for both men and women's teams, it was the camaraderie right after. Like you could tell, like you would have never been able to tell, like, oh, these people have been playing together for 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. It looked like they had been going to war together for years. Like that's how much they all cared about each other. And like in the celebrations, you saw it. And, you know, when they all dog pile on the ice, like it was just so cool to see. It was just awesome to see how much they cared about winning it together. That was awesome from both teams.
You know, and Johnny's kids coming on the ice, that tore me up in a positive way. It was an emotional moment, because this is the best of what sports represents. When you go to play with a group, and I try to explain to people, if you have an opportunity to play with a group, and whether that's at a young age and you're just playing rec, travel, you go off to play in college, you go off to play in the pros, whatever it may be, you spend a significant amount of time with a group. There's this brotherhood that's created. It's wherever you go, and it continues on at the highest levels. In this case, this is the highest level, right? You could say, yes, playing in the NHL, that's the highest level. Playing for the gold in the Olympics, highest level. And you really consider it an extension of your own family that you grew up with, because you spend so much time with those people. And I was crying, man. I was holding back tears, because it was such a beautiful moment. And the game itself was just a masterpiece, just a great game. It had feelings of, as far as Helly in the net standing on his head, kind of what was going back to Miracle 46 years ago, except this USA team was, supposed to be in this position to fight, but you needed a heroic performance. You got it. And then you get the finisher in overtime. But then above all, after it, it's the emotion of how much these guys care about one another, whether they're still there in the present time or they're in spirit, so that's the part I love about sports. That's what I love about a community. And one of the coolest moments you'll see in the sports world on that. So,
I mean, was there ever a doubt though, Jack Hughes, after getting his teeth knocked out earlier in the game, was there ever a doubt if someone was going to go win it? It was like the most hockey thing ever. Of course, the guy, no teeth, blood going all down his face. That probably $1 billion smile now, because those pictures,
that photo of him with the American flag and the blood still coming out of his mouth with the chipped tooth, that is going to live on. There it is. Like, also, by the way, like, this is the norm. You get, like, your teeth get knocked out and you're like, yep, all good. Yeah, I didn't like it, didn't appreciate it, but then you just keep going. Like, hockey players are different breeds. I applaud them. I wish I could say that, yep, like, I'm made for that. I don't know if I'm made for that.
No.
I'll be honest, but damn it, they are. It was special. It was great, and I just love the fact that the entire community got to celebrate it. And for the U.S., people were celebrating all over the place. It was a great moment. Hell of an Olympic run for the men's and women's team in the fashion that they did it. It is something that that we're going to hold on to. 46 years. And we talked about in Baltimore here, the Orioles haven't won in 43 years. 43 years, 43 years, the Baltimore Orioles haven't won a championship. Yep. Championships are hard to win. In this case, on the world stage, the U.S. hadn't been world champions in that front 46 years. So Cool moment, great moment.
And then real fast, I do, just because everyone always gives credit to everyone else and photographers don't always get their flowers. Elsa Garrison of Getty Images took that picture. That will now, that will, like you said, that picture goes down in history as one of the best. So shout out her as well.
It was. And now it's over, just like that. Everything's done. Now it's back to the day-to-day life of sports here, which, hey, you know what? I don't mind it, but it's hard to keep up with it so much because, let's see, baseball, spring training's going. World Baseball Classic is right around the corner. And then while the World Baseball Classic is going, teams are trying to figure out free agency while they're also looking at who are going to be the next players coming into the league with the combine. And then before we blink, it's going to be the draft, and then it's going to be the fall, just like that. So we thought, as you guys know, we try to bring on guests that give insights into things that we don't know how to best describe. We understand sports. We understand the dynamics, but I don't understand how to make everything work, perhaps. So, Joel, that's what I'm going to need you for. So when you're ready, just give me the thumbs up to rock and roll. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're trying to figure out what the Ravens are going to do next. We have some ideas, but why don't we bring on somebody that can talk about specifically what they might need to do to make it all happen. He's a CBS NFL salary cap expert and former agent. Let's bring on Joel Corry. Joel, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thanks for having me.
Hey, I appreciate you taking time. For everyone that is curious, you've been following all of this in this space for how long? You've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, for over 30 years. I started as an agent back in 92 working for Leonard Armato, who at the time represented Shaquille O'Neal, Hakeem Olajuwon, and Ronnie Lott.
Well, okay. Yeah. So
pretty good names.
Yeah.
Pretty good names.
Some of the best that their sport that they've ever seen in those sports. But yeah, that sounds about right. And so I have the baseball background, Joel. For all of your time in this space and what you've seen, do you have any moments that stick out to you that you've enjoyed during this run before we get into maybe some of the ins and outs of what needs to happen here in Baltimore?
In which sport?
Any of them. I love the fact that you're diversified in this, and I always love the behind the scenes of what you got to see throughout the year. So you can pick one of your favorite moments just to give people the context.
Shaq's free agency in 1996 when he left the Orlando Magic for the Los Angeles Lakers. I'd left the Leonard's firm and was still serving as a consultant and was his numbers cruncher, right-hand man for that whole process. So people like to say it was preordained that he was going to go to the Lakers, but all our talks prior to free agency starting were staying in Orlando, and they really just dropped the ball on that one.
So, okay, so on that side of it, it's the match made in heaven. Oh, the blockbuster. You go to LA, it's the storyline, and the rest is history. Behind the scenes for you, you're saying, oh, that's not how it looks. How much were you under any specific stress, or just in your mind, were you surprised with how things all went down? Because that's the side of it that people don't get. They see the end results, but they don't see the people that are in the moment, if that makes sense.
I wasn't surprised how it went down after being on an initial conversation when free agency opened and how the Magic were approaching it. Instead of going, hey, this is a once-in-a-generation type player, we need to move heaven and earth to sign him. It was more or less, let's see what every other team could potentially do from a cap standpoint, and then just pay him slightly more than that. And that opened the door for the Lakers.
I've heard that in other sports. I won't name the names of some other teams I know have had that philosophy, but that helps make decisions easier for the player and for the organization that represents them. And it's tricky, right, Joel? This whole process, it's a game in a sense, right? The salary cap it's almost like an art. What is one way maybe you can best describe before we get into the X's and O's of what the Ravens might be having to look at? What is something that maybe the average fan when it comes to trying to, from a team's perspective, to make these deals, and then also maybe on the other side to make it all make sense?
Well, it depends on the sport. If you're talking NBA, it's a soft cap with exceptions. The NFL is a hard cap. But in football, teams traditionally have been more clinical in decisions. There's less sentimentality. And with the player, you never know what their agenda is. Sometimes you see a guy take what you think is less money. It could be the fact that he told his agent, I want to stay put. I don't need every last dollar. So a deal which could be perceived to be under market, there may be something behind the scenes motivating a deal to be signed, which people think was less than what it should have been.
There's always the inner workings. And I always love just to hear that thought process, because in each sport, right, there are nuances to how this works. And then there's baseball, which that's become the wild, wild west when it's come to all this, which I'm sure that's for a different time. Well, Joel, let's talk about the one question that people are looking at the most. And Bisciotti talked about it at his press conference of restructuring one Lamar Jackson's contract, because they do have a couple other names, and one specifically the center for the Baltimore Ravens and Tyler Linderbaum, possibly heading to free agency here in a couple of weeks. But for Lamar, the number's high. Just from your perspective of looking at this, what kind of needs to be done to alleviate some of the pressure for the Ravens in 2026 and open up some more possibility?
Well, you have two choices. That Steve Bisciotti said he would like to have a new deal done by March 11th. And then if Lamar isn't amenable to that, he would just kick the can down the road with your contract restructure, where you move cap salary from 2026 into 2027 by converting base salary into signing bonus. That isn't ideal. He also said a couple of things which raised a little red flag to me, that he doesn't basically want to reinvent the wheel. He wants to more or less do the same contract as last time, but a little bit higher. I don't know what he means by a little bit higher, but Lamar last time when he signed became the league's highest paid player. A little bit higher may not necessarily mean in his mind highest paid player, but I'd imagine in Lamar's mind, he still wants to be the highest paid player in any extension he signs.
And rightfully so. You know, I think he has a track record, and of course you want to be paid what your worth is. But this is the kind of the situation that you talk about. What makes sense? What do you feel comfortable with? But then as a team, how do you feel you can best go and address some other needs? So in this case, I'll ask you in this situation, like if you were the Ravens in this case, what's a comfortable situation they could make this and then still go out and maybe attain, and it's going to be very hard, but Tyler Linderbaum's going to cash in. Hypothetically, they wanted to keep Linderbaum. In your mind, what's the type of cap that they would have to try to get to with Lamar and his deal to make it more open for Tyler to come back while not squeezing them too much?
Well, if you structure it kind of like he did last time, you're going to have a record signing bonus. Lamar's signing bonus was $72.5 million last time around. The biggest signing bonus to date is Dak Prescott's at just about $78.5 million. Let's say you give Lamar an $80 million signing bonus in a new deal, then you could clear over $30 million in cap space that way. The question is, what's going to be the average salary? How is it going to be structured? Last time, he basically got 2% more than the existing standard, which was Jalen Hurts at $51 million per year. You do the same thing again, that's at $61.75 million per year. Lamar has the leverage because of the cap number, but he's not coming off his best season. It was a down year by his standards where he missed a lot of games with injury. But that being said, everyone expects him to have a bounce back year.
Mm-hmm. I mean, well, I think we all do. And Zach, I think you got a follow up here.
Yeah, Joel, just kind of talking about obviously how you restructure deals. And I feel like this time in NFL offseason every year, you see every team kind of take some of their top players. You see restructures, everything like that. And people start to wonder about like, okay, what's the point of the salary cap if you're able to just kind of make money disappear onto other years and all of that? What is the downside to restructuring over and over, kind of pushing void years and dead cap down the line? Eventually that all catches up with you.
Yeah, in this particular case, it'll really catch up to you next year because you could convert $49.95 million into signing bonus. You already have 2 dummy voiding years in the contract. So you would lower his cap number. I believe you could free up. How much cap space would you free up? You'd free up $37.5 million in cap space practically. But the problem is you're going to raise his 2027 cap number to right about $87 million. And you're delaying the inevitable problem because you have Lamar being in a contract year in 2027. Also, he has a no trade clause and also has a clause where you can't stick a franchise tag or transition tag on him when his contract expires, should he play it out. So that's the least favorable option for the Ravens. Obviously, you can't keep him at the $74.5 million cap hit. But in this particular instance, you can't outrun any type of restructure like you could do if you do multiple restructures and the cap keeps going up. You can kind of cheat the cap that way if you have the cap going up a pretty decent amount. We saw that everyone got caught off guard in 2021 because of the pandemic and the cap going down, and teams had to start making decisions they weren't planning on because everyone plans for the cap to go up, not down.
I mean, hearing you talk about this, Joel, is this a secondary nature to you? Just throw out numbers. And you're like, yeah, if they do this, yeah, it'd be this number. Like, is this just you do this in your sleep, it seems like?
Yeah, it is. It is second nature for me. I know for most other people, their head starts swimming when you start talking about these types of numbers. But I've been dealing with this ever since the salary cap was implemented in 1994. So by now, I kind of know how this stuff works like the back of my hand.
Yeah, and you're saying those people where their head spins, that's me. And Zach, but mainly me. And I'm pretty good with numbers, but the way that you're just running through, I'm like, okay, I'm following that. All right, how did he do that? Okay, this is why you're an expert and I'm not in this situation, but this is why I love having you on. Maybe away from the Ravens then, is there any cap situation that you are just curious about how a team is going to approach it here as we're approaching free agency?
Yeah, I'm curious to see how the Raiders spend money. They're going to have $90 million in cap space. They need a lot of talent on that team. We saw in 2025 that the Patriots went on a spending spree and had a 10-game win improvement and end up in the Super Bowl. They're taking Fernando Mendoza, number 1. Is Max Crosby still going to be around in 2026? I wouldn't blame him if he demanded a trade or tried to force their hand because they've been on the road to nowhere in the past few years. And if he wants to play meaningful football next year, he's probably going to have to go elsewhere. But he's also their best player. He's the guy they market all the time, face the franchise. So I'm curious to see how the Raiders try to improve the team.
On that side of a surprise, which team you think is in trouble that needs that they have to do things to get themselves in a better spot?
Well, the Cowboys and the Chiefs. Chiefs already started because they restructured Patrick Mahomes' contract and picked up almost $44 million of cap space. They still have other things to do. Are they going to restructure Chris Jones, who now has the highest cap number for a non-quarterback? Then is Travis Kelce going to return? I know people are advocating for Tyreek Hill to come back, but that's a pretty serious injury he had to his knee. Anytime you start saying dislocated kneecap and multiple ligament tears, I don't know if he's going to be ready for the start of the regular season. And for a guy who is predicated on speed, is he going to be the same guy after that type of injury, particularly since he's already 32?
It's getting up there. Well, actually, I was saying getting up there. I'm 32, by the way. So that's, I'm sitting there going, wow, players are getting older. I go, wait a minute. That's me here as well. But you're right. I mean, he's known as the Cheetah, and you have a certain perception on what he has been. It doesn't mean that's what he's going to be moving forward. And there's always just a very interesting way about how teams go about it, how teams try to restructure. Some teams, obviously, Joel, do it better than others, too, about what they're trying to accomplish and what their goals are in the short and long term. It's a fascinating part. Has anything ever stunned you, as the last question, anything ever stunned you covering the NFL and the cap?
Yeah, the Raiders back in 2007, when they made some very head-scratching moves. Back then, they made Tommy Kelly the highest paid interior defensive lineman, coming off of a major knee injury. And the deal he got at the time was something I never would have asked for. More recently, Milton Williams going from a rotational interior defensive lineman with Philadelphia to one of the 5 highest paid interior defensive linemen at $26 million per year last year. He proved that he could handle the increased workload because he was part of the reason the Patriots defense played at such a high level.
Interesting. When the time comes, Joel, I might have you come back on to explain how this happened and why, because I'm not the numbers guy. That's you. You get it. You understand it. For those that want to understand more and want to follow what you're doing, where could they find you on either socials or anywhere that they can get more of this information?
Okay, on X, it's Corry Joel, CORRYJOEL. And I write a regular column for CBSSports.com called Agents Take on Salary Cap and Contract Matters. So a lot of it's numbers driven, but I try to dumb it down some so that people who don't have an extreme background in this stuff can follow it.
So you're speaking to me right there. So I appreciate you, Joel. I think because that's what we need. That's what we need. But I appreciate your time. Thank you. I'm curious what's going to happen here with Baltimore in the next couple of weeks because, like you've mentioned, Bisciotti said he'd like to try to get some things sorted out before free agency starts. Well, that's right around the corner. And then, then it's off and running, and then we're going to see a lot of money being spent. We don't know exactly where it's going to be spent, but it will be spent. So, Joel, I appreciate it. You have a great rest of your week and look forward to talking to you in the future.
You too. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Joel Corry, everybody. I don't even know how you can factor in all the numbers. I think it's I guess in my case, Zach, for baseball, I feel like I can talk about that pretty second nature. That's how Joel feels with the salary cap. How he put together the numbers just like that. I'm like, wow, it's
just so like you realize that sports, there's genuinely two sides to it, because the on the field obviously means so much. It's probably, I would say, the most important, but the stuff that the people upstairs go through, like you talk about coaching staff versus your analytical, like contract guys, the GM, like that is just so many numbers. That's always trying to figure it out. And I'm glad they talked about, the downsides to doing this, because every year we get the whole like, oh, the salary cap doesn't exist. Like, it's just a made up number. If you can just free up $40 million by having Patrick Mahomes agree to this slight change where he gets the same amount of money, but however you want to put it, I understand that. But I'm glad he explained, like, hey, there are downsides. Like, you can kind of put yourself in a hole where now next year Lamar's owed $86 million against the cap. And I'll answer this for him, because you can't pay that. That is a third of your salary or your roster. So yeah, I'm really glad we had that conversation, because there's just so many different ways that you can try to get around different numbers, make things look better and all that. So really appreciate Joel for hopping on with us.
Yeah. And we'll find out, and that will then turn out to be what the Ravens maybe decide to do. Tyler Linderbaum is the big name that everyone's wondering what's going to happen with him. I would hate to see him leave, but you are understanding going into this that he is going to be well sought out and probably break the bank and reset the center market altogether. And if they were to have a chance on doing that, then restructuring and freeing up some more cap space certainly would help the issue for the short term. But as we're finding out, it's the long term. At some point, you're going to have to deal with some of these numbers that you push back is essentially what I got. And you know what? His team is saying he's really curious what the Raiders are going to do. I'm curious what the Raiders are going to do. But in due time, we have time to figure out what those teams are going to do because football is still a little bit away. But right now, baseball is going on right meow. So why don't we, Zach, we'll pivot back into some baseball talk here. But before we get back into baseball talk, we go from this stream to the other stream. We'll look at you right there. Did you just have it ready to rock and roll?
No, I knew where you were going.
Oh, you dog. Well, look at that handsome fellow on there. And listen, from one stream to another, guys, check out AutoStream Car Care Center. $50 off when you just mention my name, Ryan Ripken, on any offer. And we've had some strange weather here in Maryland. They have 10 locations where you can go, use the name, get $50 off any repair. Any. If you want tires, if you have other mechanical issues, Ryan Ripken, say that name, $50 off. We appreciate our friends at AutoStream Car Care Center. And also, maybe you've appreciated the AutoStream Car Care Center videos on Instagram and Facebook. You know, I've had a lot of fun with them. Zach, some people say that that's my next calling as an actor. Yes? No?
We're going to go no comment.
Okay. Well, from that stream back to our live stream here. You really don't think that those are masterpieces? Because I think
that their social team had some great ideas.
You don't think I did a good job?
I think it went both ways. I think, just tip to the social team. They did well.
You didn't like a little slide in there?
No, they were.
Whew.
That was good. No, I'll give it to you. That was good. Creative.
You know what? That's what we're about here. We got to get more creative here on this show. Who just sent? Magoo. Baseball. That's what people wanted to talk about. So, Zach, I think it was a good thing to discuss what's been going on here for the last 5 days, right? Because technically 3 days. First game was Friday. But because I got to call the game, I got to watch the game, dissect the game from literally every single play, got to talk with Craig Albernaz during the game and some of the other players. And I want to preface this. Spring training is spring training for a reason. But there are a few things that I do believe are worth noting. So here are a few of my impressions, at least from what I've seen from the Baltimore Orioles. And then, Zach, you can give me some of yours as well. Yeah. But I think the first one, above all, I think that you and I would both say is the presence of one polar bear Pete. Pete Alonso was the headliner in the offseason, and then from the first game until now, he has set that tone. You can argue he was setting that tone earlier in camp. You were hearing him being very vocal during live BPs with some very colorful banter. And then during the game, just competing, wanting to be in there. And then on top of it, he's launched 2 jacks in 2 games, which is kind of the cherry on top. But, Zach, that is probably my first impression, was that Pete Alonso as a leader, and not just by his actual stats. If you watch the broadcast or you saw any social media posts, he interacts with the team as much as anybody. He is so in tune with asking his teammates about what they're seeing, talking, hitting. He is embracing the entire role of being a team guy. And I really do think his significance is going to stretch way beyond the field of play. And so far, I think if we're talking about that investment, Zach, it looks like Pete's going to fit in extremely well and be a huge need on that side in that clubhouse.
Yeah, and exactly what you said. The home runs are super dope. That is
Pretty cool.
awesome. Yeah. Anytime it's that shiny new toy and it does exactly what you were hoping it would do, like that's a fun feeling. But I'm glad you mentioned the stuff in the clubhouse and in the dugout because that's where Pete Alonso has caught my attention. Like I said, the stuff that he does on the field, the home runs, you expect that from Pete. There are a lot of guys that hit home runs in Major League Baseball, but it's the fact of them traveling to the Tigers yesterday. I think it was the 6th inning. Everyone is out. All the starters are out. You're probably in your first-ish, end of your second wave of players. Maybe you're getting into your third wave of players playing. And Pete Alonso is on the front step of the dugout, calling players over and screaming across the dugout for these young guys to come over to talk about what he's seeing, what others are seeing from this pitcher. And then they go out, and I think the one guy hit a double that next at bat. His first home run was in his 3rd at bat of the game. And that's significant because everyone else got 2 at bats. Why did Pete Alonso get a 3rd? Because Pete wanted to. Because Pete went to the coaching staff and was like, hey, if I'm not playing tomorrow, I want to get as much work in as possible. And that includes I'm okay going out into the field and playing more because that's going to get me ready. But I also want to see as many pitchers as possible. He goes out and hits a home run. That's awesome. But the lesson was the fact that he went out there and he looked at his coaching staff, was like, hey, I know that usually guys like me are only sort of just getting started. They're only getting 1 or 2 at bats and then we go from there. He wants to compete. He wants to go out there and be the best. And that's showing it through action. That's not just saying, hey, I'm going to change a culture. That's changing it in real time. Not being afraid to say, hey, Albie, not very happy with my first 2 at bats. Hit that one line drive in the gap. Center fielder made an incredible play on it. Saying, I want to see another guy. If they have a 3rd pitcher out there for me to face, I want to see as many guys as possible because that competitive juice is contagious. Goes out there, hits a bomb, and then gets to trot around the bases. It just felt like everything coming together of every aspect that we've talked about and that we've heard about Pete Alonso from Buck Showalter, Jim Duquette, everyone at the winter meetings. They're like, hey, yeah, this guy, he hits bombs. That's pretty good. You might have seen a few of them, but it's what he does in the clubhouse. Every guy in spring training, when asked about in the first few days about Pete Alonso being there, they talked about him being a leader. That's why you got him. We talked about it so much last year that felt like maybe they had missed that veteran leader that you had with the Kyle Gibsons, the James McCanns in the years prior. This is a guy that from the beginning, from right now, it's pretty clear. You want to talk about a leader that's been added to the clubhouse, it's been Pete Alonso.
And as hitters as well, what I love what Pete's doing. So before his first home run, he was on the on-deck circle, and there was a camera shot that went back to him talking to his talking to the bench. And I asked Pete that question at the next half inning on what were you guys talking about? And he says, I love getting feedback from my teammates on what they see, what's going on, what's the report. He wants all that info. But the biggest thing that he said is, I want from what anybody's seen on this guy firsthand, I want to know that component. And that's how you want to talk in a dugout, by the way. And that's not saying what they weren't doing before. I'm not going to say that. But what I am saying about with Pete, that type of mindset gets you thinking more. That type of mindset allows more conversation, and maybe that opens up a thought for what a hitter might try to work on or what he might pick up. It's contagious that way. The phrase that I always like to use was use your eyes. And then once you use your eyes, communicate that with others. Because when you have those dialogues off of what you're seeing, as well as what the information it's telling you, that's when you can get the best results. And so I thought that was really a great message that Pete was doing so far, and I expect that to continue. Now, number 2 for impression, Zach, I got the full, organic, authentic, that Albie don't give a shit type of mentality, and he is a guy that just loves ball. And that was something for me this weekend. I have talked to him. I love his demeanor. His excitement and enthusiasm in the dugout in the second inning could have could have done the whole inning himself. Why? Because he was so interactive. But you could see how amped up he is about the game. And what I like about it is he's in tune. He wants to have that energy in that clubhouse, in that dugout. But this is everything that I've heard. And what you want from your team is your manager to have this type of energy, but also what he expects on a day-to-day. And if you don't reach that same goal of what your day-to-day job is, that there will be, you have to be accountable for that. And I think that's the part that I see. We're going to be passionate. We're going to play this game hard. We're going to play this game with energy. And then above all, we're going to have attention to detail. And if we're not doing that, yeah, we're going to talk about that. It's the accountable side. But I also just think for the city of Baltimore, Zach, him just showcasing who he is, I think that Oriole fans, if you saw that, you go, man, I love that this is how he's going to act. I love that. I can tell that he is super passionate and he's not holding anything back, right? You know, with certain managers throughout baseball, you can sit there and go, I wonder how they are. You know, what is that demeanor? Is that just coach speak? Well, in that moment, you can see, no, that's just Albie being Albie. We didn't ask him anything. He didn't hold anything back. He was just reacting to the game because he's a gamer. He's a grinder. He loves it. So that'd be my second thing, Zach. I loved what Albie had brought together. Is there another point besides him that maybe stuck out to you over the first couple of days?
I mean, if we want to talk about things that just kind of got me fired up, was one, you could see it in some of the young pitchers. There's just an energy, I think, and that's the big word that I think describes just kind of what we've said about the new additions and everything is it's energy, because you go out there and it starts with Craig Albernaz. It starts there, and then it goes to Pete Alonso, and then it's been infectious throughout the entire clubhouse. Guys like Trey Gibson going out there 3 scoreless against the Yankees. That's awesome to see from a young guy. Yes, the statistics don't matter, but to a young guy like that, it does. Tyler O'Neill showing up healthy, getting 2 knocks in his first game. It just felt like everyone is sort of showing up with this different feeling than in years past. Like, you just see this through the way that they are working in practice, all the videos you see. Guys, we're doing day 2. We're already doing situational hitting. Albernaz in an interview after, he's like, yeah, I'm trying to change the mindset of this team. We're trying to be like, okay, guy on third, we just get him in. And I think that's what you're really starting to see is it starts with Albernaz. And that's why I think all of us became kind of bullish on him after the interviews, after talking to him, after hearing about what everyone said about him, because it's not just, oh, this guy knows baseball. There's a lot of people out there that know baseball. This guy gets it at a level of, okay, I know what needs to be done. How do I get this across to the team? But mostly, how do I just make sure they know that we will go to war together? That's kind of the thing. It's like everything is as a unit. Okay, we're going to go out there. You can tell when you guys were talking to him, players just love to play for that guy. And you can already see it. The way he talks to players, the way he interacts with them, it really feels like a different age of Baltimore baseball because of where it starts at the top, because of what Craig Albernaz has already kind of instilled energy-wise, and going from there, I think that's why there's a lot to be excited about. They've added some great talent this offseason. I think, we're going to see Chris Bassett and those guys kind of, as the season goes or spring training goes on, we'll see them more and more. But my biggest takeaways so far have been just the new additions and the energy that they're bringing to this team. It really does feel like a new leaf has been turned in Baltimore. And it's not to say that the last team or, last year, like, oh, they didn't have anything. They got stuck behind the 8 ball early and they couldn't dig themselves up. And I think that this has just been a breath of fresh air of like, hey, it's 0-0. Like we're no longer, last year I can't even imagine how it felt from pretty much June 1st on to you're just scratching and clawing every game, and you win 6 out of 7, you win 8 out of 10, and you look up and you're like, oh, we're still 9 games under. Like that's hard.
Oh, it's brutal.
And I just think that on top of the new additions, the leadership, everyone kind of getting together, I think it really is put a recipe together for success in Baltimore because, man, last year's behind us. This is a new squad. Let's go for it.
When you are losing and you have high expectations and it's just brutal day after day, and just putting it bluntly, and you're sucking. Like, you're just not saying that some aren't having good games, but collectively you ain't winning games. That sucks. And then you have to show up. You're getting criticized from the outside because the team isn't performing. There's a lot of people frustrated. So there's people, fans and people outside that are frustrated. There's a lot of frustration because internally you feel that you should be playing better than you are, and you're frustrated of where the team is. And then on top of it, you're losing. And we all know that when things don't go right, sometimes you can have that toxic feeling, that toxic environment. And not that anyone specifically is being so negative, but when there's so much negativity because there's no winning going on, it's hard to get yourself out of that. And so for the Orioles, it was, all right, this team was supposed to take that step in 25, and then they ended up being the worst team in the American League East last year. After having the most wins for 2.5 years in the AL East, yeah, that's going to bring a lot of negativity, and it brought a lot of change. And so now bringing in some veterans, new coaching staff, and a reset can allow some of these guys to go. And I'll tell you what, though, Zach, I know that the camp hasn't been forgiven in the injury's sake. I feel terribly for Westy, which we hadn't talked about yet, but his partial UCL tear is getting the PRP. We'll see what happens. I feel so bad for him. Jackson Holiday's going to miss time. You freak thing. It happens. But for me, there shouldn't be a panic, and no one cares if you're injured. You got to find a way to get through that because you're a team. You got to find a way to win. And that's why I think Albernaz bringing that Guardians, type of mentality there with Stephen Vogt. Yeah, hey, dude, we don't care what's going on. We got to go and find a way. And if we win a game that's 2-0 or 8-7, we got to find a way. We got to get the most out of our pitching staff, and we got to get the most out of our offense that day. And so I think that's the challenge that they're going to be presented with, and that's something that they're going to have to overcome. One of the final things I'll say for impressions before I talk about Jordan Westburg, Zach, is the final impressions are this team has some pieces pitching-wise that could come to fruition here sooner than we thought. And I'm not going to sit there and go, Trey Gibson's going to be the next dude, and he's going to help this team right now. But I got to tell you, if you go back and watch what Trey has done in the minor leagues and you saw his first outing, there's a lot to like with what he can do. Chase McDermott, if he can clean up his mechanics and get comfortable getting his 98-mile-an-hour heater over to set up his other off-speed pitches, there's a lot to like with his upside. And then other guys that could take that step. Grant Wolfram, dude, there is so much potential with him. And I know he came over, but when you have a lefty that throws 98 and he has a curveball that can go and run into righties, there's a lot to like, but you got to refine the game. But there are parts of that pitching side that are very appealing. And then obviously the starting side, yeah, Trevor Rogers, man, I don't think it's going to be a fluke. I think that 80% of Trevor Rogers is an all-star. 100% of Trevor Rogers, he's the best pitcher in the American League. That's the beauty of it. But Rogers looks confident. He looks comfortable. And I think the rest of the staff, knock on wood, stays healthy. They're going to have more options than I think people understand and even probably anticipated with this Orioles pitching staff. But health is important. You got to battle through. There's going to be a lot of questions on what happens with Jordan Westburg out, Zach. And one thing I want to get across about Westy real quickly. This was a chronic issue. This wasn't that, he's just been injury prone. This was something that's happened even years before he even got into pro ball, right? So when it's a chronic thing, they can't tell exactly when this happens. And I'll be honest, like if I were to get an MRI on this elbow, Zach, This thing probably looks awful. And I couldn't even throw as hard as Westy. I couldn't make those throws that he can do. But when you're a position player, or you're a baseball player, you are going to have a certain amount of wear and tear. And as a position player, if it's not bothering you, you're not going to do anything. Why would you do anything? Unfortunately for him, it became a problem and it flared up. And then you want to make sure you try to put yourself in a position. The hard thing for Westy is that he's going to have to battle the mental demons of, how do I rehab again? How do I help this team? And then you have a little doubt about yourself set in. And that's the thing I hate for him, because he's such a good dude. And all he wants to do is be available. And the crazy thing, Zach, is his minor league career, he was available. He played a lot. Just the last couple of years, or since he's gotten to the big leagues, hasn't been that smooth sailing. So that mental side wears on you. And I feel for him on that. But with that comes great opportunity, Zach. Kobe Mayo, they got to figure out how they're going to value him. But there's opportunity to play third base for somebody. Blaze Alexander is going to play to start this year. Jeremiah Jackson's got an opportunity. So no team or no fan or not the organization, no one's feeling sorry for what the Orioles situation is. But I think above all, they do have options there that actually are very, I don't know how to put it. I mean, it's very enticing to see what's going to happen, Zach. There's an opportunity that's going to present itself. So it doesn't have to be so doom and gloom from the start. This is arguably the deepest team that the Orioles have had. Now, if they don't play well, then yes, you can talk about them not playing well. But as far as having options, they got to weigh the option of, who do we think could help our defense, and ultimately who can be an offensive threat for us. And they got some choices to make. So that's what I have on that. Anything you wanted to add to that, Zach?
No, with the Westberg thing, I mean, it's just you feel for the person more than anything because of how much he's gone through, to be honest. I mean, looking just at this real fast, he said a few days ago, he said, you can imagine how frustrating and disappointing it is, but at the same time, like, what am I going to do about it? I do feel like I was doing everything the right way, or to the best of my knowledge, the right way, and these things are still happening. It's that mental grind. Like Jordan Westberg, his elbow will be back probably better than what it is, because he's been dealing with it for so long. He'll probably have some more comfort in that level, but it's another rehab for a guy who I'm sure just feels like all he's done on a baseball field the past year and a half is rehab. And that does mentally get to you. I hate it for the person. We talk about the human aspect of sports all the time. This is where it can really, your mental fortitude, no matter how good or bad it is, it comes out and it shows, because this is a guy that we all know, when Jordan Westberg's on the field, how valuable he is. We know he is, quote unquote, we've referred to him as the glue of this lineup. When he's in it, it flows differently. They do better. 1 through 9 seems to connect well. You're not ever worried about the baseball aspect. It's the mental side of it. It's, getting back there, because I'm sure when we talked to him, he talked about it. He was like, I'm just itching to get out there, and this was before we even knew about this stuff. He's like, I just want to get out there. I want to make up for last year, because last year he wasn't available as much when the team was fighting, scratching, clawing, trying to just get back into any sort of race, and to be on the sidelines for that. And now this happens. For his sake, you just hope for a speedy recovery. You hope, that this PRP shot, that it can be that Band-Aid that fixes it, at least for this season, whether that is him eventually getting back to playing third, if it's going to be more of a DH role, no matter what it is. So for Westberg, I mean, this team is better when Jordan Westberg's on it, so I understand why they want to take maybe that slight risk with the PRP shot, because they want him back as quickly as possible. But for his sake, I hope he can get healthy, and I hope we see him back on the field soon.
He's a game changer. He is. But then the other part of it is it's no knock to him. It's if you're not on the field, though, the team has to look to other options. And that's exactly what happens. But if you're Kobe Mayo, Jeremiah Jackson, Blaze Alexander, they just signed Tygo Estrada to a minor league deal for depth here today. There is an opportunity here. And every camp and every early season, players have an opportunity to put themselves in a position to help a ball club and further their career. So even though some people might have reservation on Kobe Mayo's ability to play third base, well, he's got a chance to prove that he could have a little bit more to help this team. Now, if they still have doubts, then he won't be the third baseman. Or maybe they'll say the upside of that bat that hit over 300 and had 5 home runs in September last year, we want to get that bat in the lineup more. But does that sacrifice some defense? Perhaps. That's the game that you're going to have to play. And for the Orioles, they have to figure out a couple of their other spots. We'll save that for a different day, but that's just the nature of it. How do you best help your team? You got to be out there. That's just the name of the game. But for Jordan Westburg, there's zero doubt in this. He is one of the few players, when he steps on a field, the presence is felt immensely. And knowing him, he's going to do everything he can to get back. So I'm hoping that we see that sooner than later. And I just hope at the end of it that mentally it's not as hard of a time, but I do know it's going to be a long journey for him, because when you lose, you're hurt. You have a lot of these demons that you're fighting. You have a lot of this self-doubt. You're not feeling as strong. It's hard to be down. And so I hope for Westy, he stays with it, because not only is he a hell of a player, he's a great dude. He's a great dude, and I'm excited to see him bounce back and hopefully get back to being that Westy that was an all-star back in 2024. So if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. We do this live Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern time. This week, I know it's a little bit different, and I apologize, because we're trying to get our ducks in a row. We consider our calendar year starting March 1, and we run that all the way until next year, because March 1's really, that's the baseball month where everything kicks off. Opening days at the end of the month. Try to do some spring training work. And then once we get to the fall, then it's football season, and then the cycle just continues on and on. We got a lot of things planned. But for the meantime, like and subscribe. And if you're on Apple and Spotify, leave us a follow and leave us a review. We're trying to get the word out there. We got a lot of great guests that are joining us. We had Joel Corry, former agent and CBS salary cap expert, that joined us earlier to talk about the NFL side of it, especially with free agency approaching. We will have more draft coverage there, and we will have a lot more baseball guests, because it is baseball season. Now, one more baseball note, Zach, we wanted to talk about before the show. You know where I'm going with this?
Oh, yeah.
So everyone was getting all excited about the USA winning against Canada. And so then they said, well, I cannot wait then for the World Baseball Classic. More teams playing for their country, the excitement, nations behind the team. It is a great atmosphere, no doubt. And so a lot of fans, at least in the U.S., were excited about seeing Gunnar Henderson's going to be in there. Paul Skeens is going to be in there. Tarek Skubal is going to be in there for one game. And there was Bob Nightingale's tweet, and it's been around elsewhere. But apparently, Skubal's only going to be a part of the World Baseball Classic for one game. He will make one shortened start for Team USA before returning to the Tigers camp. And he is scheduled to make that start March 7th against Great Britain in USA's second game of the World Baseball Classic in pool play. So, Zach, that I know for baseball fans, you're going to go, well, that's disappointing. That's not what I wanted to hear. You're having the best of the best, but we're only having the best of the best in a game that the U.S. should be heavily favored in that game. Now, it's baseball. You got to go out and play. But that's a bummer. That's a bummer for a competition side, but this is the other part that's different than the Olympics. This is happening, and then the regular season where you're chasing a World Series where Skubal's in a contract year, where then he's trying to cash out. So he has even more to think about, but nonetheless, not the news that everyone was thinking going into this World Baseball Classic, which is now under 2 weeks away.
Yeah. And I'll say it, it's also disappointing that it's like his only World Baseball class, like his only game is going to be pool play against Great Britain, who their best result finishing in the World Baseball Classic was the last time they played. It's actually their first time qualifying for the World Baseball Classic, and they finished 15th. If all goes to plan, you probably should win that game anyway. It's a massive disappointment. Massive disappointment. I understand it because of where he is contract-wise. I understand where it is because the season is getting underway. He's probably not as built up as you would want to be going into something like that. But if we were going to only get one game of Tarek Skubal, could we not have pushed it to later on? Like, could we have not found a way to be like, hey, you're going to pitch in a bigger game than the second game or whatever against Great Britain in pool play? Like, I feel pretty good about us coming out of the pool anyway. It just, that part sucks. That part sucks. And I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not going to blame Skubal because of this. I'm sure, and from what it kind of sounds like, the way he's worded it, of saying I'm lobbying to get back to at least cheer, is I'm sure the Tigers were like, yeah, dude, you think you're pitching in the entire World Baseball Classic? And I'm sure that was something that was discussed before he even signed off to go there. I'm sure they were like, yeah, we'll let you pitch there, but you're getting one start. I highly doubt that Mark DeRosa and Team USA was blindsided by this today of like, wait, what do you mean we only get you for one start? I'm sure they knew, but I feel like because of the momentum from the Olympics, then you go into the World Baseball Classic, you're like, man, it is so great. This was the first Olympics in years that they've allowed the NHL players to play again, and that was just incredible. And then you're like, oh, and we're about to see the best of the best, face off again, and now you're like, some of the best aren't playing. And so it's disappointing in that aspect, but overall, it's still going to be a super fun tournament. We'll see how far Skubal goes. Just it is. Yeah, Big Tom's what I'm saying. Like I know you can't guarantee the championship, but like we couldn't be like, hey, we're bringing in Skubal on the side. Just
we only got you for one. Let's save the ammo now. You got to get there, right?
Yeah,
it's all about that, and you don't want to miss out on the opportunity. And it's disappointing from the sense that you want to see him in it. Again, listen, I completely understand the situation that he's in. It has nothing to I'm for it. If I'm a Skubal fan, that's the best thing for your career. I'm for you on that. For a Detroit Tiger fan, yeah, I mean, World Baseball Classic's amazing. It's going to be a great energy. There's so much excitement. You're playing for your nation. Yeah, you got a full 162 here where you're chasing greatness as well. It's a hard place to be. And if he had signed this contract already,
he's playing longer.
It probably is, right? Now, and the Tigers in this case, this is the part of the business side of baseball which is really hard. And it's different than even saying hockey. Well, I know that it's kind of crazy to think this way, but in hockey, you might get physically smacked around on a game-to-game basis, but you'll either have an injury that you can continue to play through. For pitching, it takes one thing to go wrong with your arm, and you're done. And you're done for a while, right? So that's the part here when you're looking at the Olympics of they're playing, something happens. Okay, a guy could miss time. That's a part of the sport. But baseball, it's not that Skubal would get hit, and he could get hit. There's the possibility of physically getting the ball off him. But the worry is, what if something happens to his arm?
Yeah.
And the biggest contract that we might see in pitching history could go down the drain. And that would hurt him from a personal standpoint moving forward. Then on top of it, from a season standpoint, that's why you're in this position, because you're playing for a Major League Baseball team that you are getting all these opportunities, right? So I get it. But, man, the competitor and the fan in me just wants to see the best out there for the whole thing.
It's because of the timing as well. If this had happened last week, I think everyone would have been like, no, that makes sense. Like, yeah, you don't want to, but everyone is so entrenched in like let's get the best from all the world. Let's all bring it together and let's see who wins. And like, obviously, hey, I'll say it, revenge tour for Team USA. If you think they aren't kind of, they can say like, oh, no, we're just focused on the game in front of us. You want another chance in the championship against Japan. Like, that's what Team USA wants. So it's unfortunate there, but like you said, am I shocked? Do I no, I'm not shocked at all. Do I understand it? Yeah. There's no way. And I can tell you everything. There are 29 fan bases upset by this. The Tigers are like, good, don't. Because you want to talk about the risk, go ask any Mets fan about how quickly suddenly the World Baseball Classic goes from, oh, this is so fun watching all the best players play against each other, to what do you mean Edwin Diaz is out for the season during a celebration? Things happen, and I understand it because of his situation. Had the ink dried on a $500 million contract already, I'm telling you, Tarek Skubal's going to be out there for probably the entire World Baseball Classic. But this would be an all-time what are you doing moment if he were to commit to the full thing and something were to happen. Hopefully, obviously, knock on wood, everyone is healthy and everything, because at the end of the day, we just want to see the best of the best compete against each other.
And again, there's just a different pride when you see players competing for their country and the team that they're representing. You want to take it back. The four nations with hockey last year, right? That was where you're going, whoa, this truly doesn't mean anything. Like, yeah, it matters. Oh yeah, you win the Four Nations, right? Cup or whatever it's considered. But in the grand scheme, does it really matter? No, but did it matter to everyone supporting those teams? Yeah, they were behind it. They were excited. That's what the World Baseball Classic does. It brings nations together to root for teams. Trey Turner talking about the home run that he hit down in Miami a few years back when it was the last one. He says, damn, that still was one of the most electric moments of his career. And so it's an intensity there that you can't even fully quantify the magnitude. And then we've talked to a bunch of other people when it was just starting up. Chipper Jones, Hall of Famer for the Atlanta Braves, where you've gone to World Series and you've had all this experience. Chipper Jones specifically said, wearing USA across the chest, man, it just hit different for him as a player.
Yeah, and I remember this vividly, and I just looked it up to get the exact quote. Mike Trout famously asked Mookie Betts, which is kind of depressing that one of the greatest of all time had to do this, but he asked Mookie Betts, he was like, hey, is this what the playoffs feel like? And Mookie turned to him and said, this is so beyond that. Like, there is something about, like you said, having USA on your chest. The environment, it's game 7 every pitch. Every pitch. You want to talk about, go watch the fans in the World Baseball Classic, because they will not sit down for 27 outs. They will not stop yelling. They will not stop cheering. It is the perfect picture of what makes competition in baseball so great. So it is bigger atmosphere than a playoff game, than a random wild card game at 1 p.m. at Tropicana Field in front of 20,000 fans that could take off work last minute because we're playing the playoffs in the middle of a work day. It takes that to a different level. That's not even in the same stratosphere as you are. Every single person is putting their country's name on their chest, and they are all going forward with one goal to represent their country. Every fan is together. It is a special environment, and that's why I'm so fired up for the World Baseball Classic. It's going to be such a fun environment above all. And if we get anything close to what we got last time, it comes down to Shohei Ohtani versus Mike Trout. It was unbelievable. Maybe the torch has been passed a little bit. Maybe we want Aaron Judge up there at this point. But this is why we want the World Baseball Classic, because of the environment, because of everything on the line, the best players in the world. It truly is something special.
And what I love is the other countries that are being represented, you get to see the passion that they have. And we've heard especially how much and I mean, I've lived it, Zach, just when you have teammates that are from these countries, when you hear about the passion that especially players from the Latin countries have for the game, it's special. And it's unique. Every country has this passion about it. I think that's what I love so much with sports in general, but specifically with the World Baseball Classic, you see the representation and you see the energy behind it. And that's what's been going on for decades and decades around the world and in those countries, but it's not showcased enough, at least here. Why? Because there hasn't been a stage to bring that to everyone's, eyes and to their mind. So that's what also makes it so fun for me. I love seeing the raw, pure emotion because it's something for a 162 season. Zach, you won't see that from players for the 162. You'll see energy, you'll see passion, but you won't see that intensity specifically probably until you get to the postseason. And even in the postseason's a different beast, but it is not that same feeling for some of these people that are rooting on their own countries in the World Baseball Classic. So if you are a new member, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. Do this live Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern time, right here on YouTube, X, and Facebook. Well, typically we'll run till 5. We're trying to get all of our ducks in a row. There's a lot of ducks to get in a row.
Yeah, Ryan, real fast. I want to bring this up. I got to put it on my computer real fast because people are now finding this. Sports are weird. The way life works is super weird. So people went back and are obviously watching The Miracle on Ice more. Mm-hmm. And Randy Scott from ESPN Sports Center host noticed something from when they were doing tryouts in the movie. And actually, a certain player was cut from the movie, or in the movie, a certain player was cut. Look at the name they are about to cut in this. Jack Hughes, who retired from, it's a different Jack Hughes, no relation, but retired from hockey 2 years later. And there was in the Miracle on Ice movie, them scratching out Jack Hughes because there are always those things in sports that make you go, ooh, this is a little weird.
There's always certain connections and the stories that come through it. I can go on and on about why I freaking love sports and why I think playing for a team and working with a group does so much more than just the results on the field. Also, then when things do come to fruition, it's because of something special that had to be earned and put through. And over time, when you see it, something connects it down the road. If it isn't at that moment, it can be decades later. It always seems to happen that way. There's always this small world type of thing. But above all, if for anyone out there that you can have all your different feelings about teams, about sports, what sports you like, what you don't like. I truly believe that it's something when greatness does happen, Zach, there's just things that you can't explain how the coincidences are there. But I don't think that they're just coincidences. After all the time where it continues to happen, it's almost like the sport gods, they put something together. It's like it brews. And so from that's what, 46 years ago that would have hypothetically been that situation. That name Hughes.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see how it goes. And for the U.S., it's a hell of an Olympics, not just for the hockey, for the men's team. It's still crazy that people, if you had forgot, the women's team won also on a golden opportunity, which was also an electric move. And I just wish I could skate. Kimmy Meisner is going to help us skate, which that's going to be crazy for how that's going to work out. But what a moment there.
It's crazy.
What a moment. So sports and backyard sports. Dude, is this a golf? They send this to us? I think they did. This isn't an oven mitt. I think it's a golf.
I was gonna say I assumed at first it was an oven mitt, and I put it on like that, and I was like, this gives no protection.
But it feels, it's comfortable.
I didn't, honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't even think about it being a golf. That makes way more. Especially
so you think that this is an oven mitt?
No, not. I'm talking about like a sliding mitt.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't go there, but yeah, I've had something like this for sliding mitt.
Well, that's originally what I thought it was, and then I pulled out and I was like, this just doesn't feel like a sliding mitt. So that's why because originally I was like, okay, backyard baseball. And I was like, are they doing sliding mitts? I was like, is that like something that maybe like we'll see a player or two have this year? If you weren't thinking about that already, maybe that would be cool. But yeah, okay, on the golf that would make. No, I wasn't thinking like an actual oven mitt. Like I was thinking like, oh, you got your oven mitt on for your sliding.
I've had that oven mitt on for sliding, and for someone that's not fast and it's not a base threat, I was like, do I really need to wear this thing? But weird things happen on the base paths. Talk about a guy that also had bad luck. Jordan Westberg got drilled in the hand, and also his hand got stuck up while running the bases, because that's unfortunately been Westy's luck on top of it. So there is a point to it. Here's my thing I will say. It's an unpopular opinion, but I really don't like to slide head first. I never do, for those reasons.
Like for players in general, or you?
I think in general, if you don't have to, I wouldn't. I know your feeling is your momentum's going forward, and a lot of base stealers do it, so it makes sense. But typically, I think to protect yourself fully, you slide feet first. But a lot of people, because you feel like your momentum is going to get you there quicker and you're diving forward, that you reach out. That's also why we see more hand injuries. Yeah. So it's hand in hand here. And that was pun intended.
I was going to say, I was like,
did you like that joke?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I don't care what they say about you, Zach. I like you. You're a good kid. And from this stream to another stream, one more time for the one-time Auto Stream Car Care Center. Appreciate you guys. And right now, they got 10 locations. You go for any service for your car. And we've had weird weather. Yep. If you need to get tires, battery, you got mechanical issues, mention my name, Ryan Ripken. You get $50 off any of those services. So we appreciate Auto Stream Car Care Center. From that stream to this stream, Zach, any final words?
No. Got some good college basketball games on tonight, but that's about it. I guess we're still in. Hockey kicks off again on Wednesday, if I read that correctly. And then NBA is absolutely useless this year. It's the worst the product's ever been. They got to do something. Nobody cares.
I'll be honest. I just haven't been following it enough.
I'm usually like as playoffs get closer type follow, like, and then like you see the highlights and stuff. So I have an idea. The only
I haven't even seen highlights.
Because there are none, because every game is a 30-point blowout and every star player is out by the third quarter. So tanking is at an all there. I think the issue is there's 3 really good players in this draft and half the league is tanking for them. And that's like, they're now finding teams for tanking. So we'll see what happens. NBA's in a bad spot, though. Bad spot. We can get in. That could be a whole different podcast.
That could be a whole different time. It is. But you know what is back? Baseball's back. And it's rocking and rolling here. So we'll talk more and more about that. We'll have some guests the rest of the week. And like I said, we'll be really humming with all of our programming back on the normal front once we get into March and we head towards spring training. But we got a whole lot of content. Maybe tomorrow, Zach, I can do a little bit more digging on Polar Bear Pete. Maybe that will be it. Maybe we'll talk to him in the future coming up. Could be fun. Okay. Cue the music. Ooh. As always, here on the Ryan Ripken Show, we appreciate each and every one of you. Have a day, have a night, have a great streaking rest of your Monday, and come back and join us tomorrow, because we'll be doing it live. Ryan Ripken Show right here on YouTube, X, and Facebook.